It didn't happen. You're just imagining. Stop trying to make people look like they're just angry. This is the story they're going to tell you after we tell you about these migrants trying to board a school bus. Now, the story is it didn't happen. The reality is it did. Parents knew it happened. Students knew it happened. But for some reason, the San Diego police says, nope, you're wrong. In fact, here is the reasoning they give you. You see, what happened was those migrants, illegal immigrants, thought the school bus was public transportation. The problem with their story is that the migrants had backpacks on.
He did say it was really scary, and he was saying that it was kind of confusing, I guess, being at 8 years old, because they were wearing backpacks and stuff and could almost pass as like high schoolers. But he did say, he's like, but they looked exactly like adults, but they were wearing backpacks, so it was really confusing.
So they're going to say, well, that's because they're traveling. Now, I understand that the wish to limit public outrage is their desire. I get it. I get that you want to make people think that something is not happening so you can limit the amount of panic. The problem with that is it's like having a rabid dog running through a house, knowing that grandma's in the living room, and you tell grandma it's fine. Now, grandma sees the dog coming and grandma can't move. Grandma's depending on you to move her, and you get out the way and you run. But you tell grandma, don't worry, the dog won't bite you. It's biting everybody else, but don't worry, not you. 2 minutes later, grandma's gone because the dog ate grandma. Now you got to come up with a different story. Well, what happened? We tried to save grandma, but the dog was so rabid we had to just vacate the area. You see, what they're trying to do is create for you one story, hiding the other. This is not the only place they've done this. And this is not the only scenario they've done it in. They will have you see with your own eyes something going on, and then will come later and tell you didn't see that. They think we're in the Star Wars movie where it says you're talking about Jedi mind trick. You didn't see that. That didn't happen. These men knew exactly what they were trying to do. They knew what kind of bus it was. You see, the thing about school buses is kind of weird. They have an odd color, and it's almost universal across the United States. In fact, I would even venture to say it's almost universal globally. Now, I'm from the Caribbean. We have buses the same color for schools. It's kind of odd that they kind of use the same color almost everywhere. So for you to say they thought it was public transportation when on the side of the bus, it obviously does not look like a public bus. But let's assume for just 1 minute that, okay, Venezuela does not have the colored school buses. If you are looking at a bus with your two eyes, and every last one of the people on that bus are miniature, you're just going to assume that the bus is picking up all midgets? No, you're not going to have that pass by anyone. Even if you don't know English, you know what a toddler and a child looks like. Even if that was the case, you know full well what a bus full of children looks like. Let's say, for instance, you know for a fact that in Venezuela, they all use public transportation type buses to carry their kids. Have children changed from country to country? Just a question. I mean, I'm just asking for the next guy. Have children completely changed what they look like from country to country? How are you going to tell me that they had no clue what they were doing and they were just guessing that it was a public transportation? Secondarily, why would the police come out and said, no, that didn't happen? They never tried to board the bus. You see, if you're going to lie, at least keep your story consistent. You see, that will help us understand that you know exactly what is happening, or in what you don't want us to understand, that you don't know what's happening. But you've already told us that's not why they boarded the bus, but then you tell us that they did board the bus, but then you also tell us, no, they didn't board the bus at all. Which is it? Your story falls apart very badly when you try to mix two stories and they don't gel, water and oil. In either case, regardless of whatever story you believe, it does not put the children in any less danger. It does not limit the fact that these kids were almost used as shields. You might ask, well, they just needed a place to ride. Why wouldn't you let them ride? Because that's not for public transportation. Give you a scenario. Suppose these men, these immigrants, had nefarious thoughts in mind. And they did act upon them when they did get on the bus. And the police were to tell you this didn't happen. And then you later find out there was funerals for nearly 8 children. Do you expect a proper answer from your officers then? And by then it's too late, right? Now remember, this happened in 2 different scenarios, in 2 different locations, all California. How many times do we have to see this happen for us to wake up and say, oh, maybe we're being lied to? Maybe they're just covering stuff up because they've allowed it to happen and they're waiting for something even worse to take place. We want to act like this is a one-off. We want to act like maybe we should accept everybody across the border because they're struggling too. Your struggle, hear me carefully, your struggle does not have to equate my lack of safety. There are certain things that I have put in place to help my family thrive. And because of your problem, it should not endanger my child who does not share your problem. And I don't expect authorities to uphold bad behavior by one lying to me and telling me that it didn't happen. To me, that's what you would call throwing liquid in my face from your body and telling me it's rain. You know full well what you've done. You know full well what you've allowed, and these children are not safe. The more you can tell me, the better. But the less you tell me, the more worried I should be. Because say, for instance, you did know what was happening. What is to stop the next group from successfully boarding and doing what they need? Especially if the police are going to make excuses for it. Are we going to wait until we have a situation where multiple children die only to react after the fact? The problem here is this. We've allowed a certain demographic of people to cross our borders, unvetted and unstopped, and the last people that we want them to affect are going to be one of the main ones affected, our children. The government doesn't want you to talk about it. The government doesn't want you to admit that this is happening. And so what they do is lie to you. Now, you have the options of replacing said government officials. The problem is that you sometimes may not know what exactly they're doing. Because look, let's be honest, they're good at lying. If they weren't that good at lying, we would not be in the situation we are now. Your job is to be able to look through the lies and see the truth. Question everything. Believe nothing until you can prove it yourself. I hope these parents find some sort of a resolve for this, because if this is allowed to continue, it'll graduate from 2 buses to every bus. And eventually somebody's going to get hurt. And the last people that are going to find any justice will be the American citizen.